Hey there, Clayton Stufflebeam, PFR agronomist with Beck's Hybrids. Today I'm talking about a piece of equipment. This is called the end zone and the grain temp guard. Together they make a system that can either dry down corn based off of humidity and temperature parameters inside and outside of the bin, and they can dry down soybeans, or they can add moisture to soybeans, rehydrate soybeans. Now, if I'm loading this bin today, I can't just spray water on the soybeans. That's illegal. However, we can rehydrate them through humidity and temperature in and outside that grain bin. So let's talk about that harvest first. So the market standard for soybeans is 13%. So when you haul your beans to the elevator, you want as close to 13% as possible. Basically, we're trying to sell the elevator water. Now, as harvest goes on, there are times or years where the moisture might go down throughout the season. We might end up at 8% beans. If we load the beans into the bin, let's just say 9%, shrink on beans is 1.5% per point of moisture. So if I have 4% moisture loss, take that times my shrink of 1.5. That gives me 6% total lost bushels. So if I have 100,000 bushel bin for easy math, and 6% fewer beans because I harvested them at 9%, I'm going to sell the elevator 6,000 less bushels out of that 100,000 bushel grain bin. So if we have an opportunity to rehydrate, how can we do that? Now let's talk about how this system works. The end zone is manufactured and sold by Farm Shop MFG. The system works by utilizing a weather station. The end zone portion of this system is the weather station, and it is taking care of reading the outside temperature and the outside humidity. And then the grain temp guard, that has sensors inside the bin placed in the soybeans in this case. And that's taking care of the same thing, humidity and temperature. So with those, we can set parameters on each of these of when we want to kick the fan on. So this system right here in the middle is connected to the fan, and we can set that in automatic control. And then with the grain temp guard and the weather station, we bring both these systems together and we have a way to rehydrate soybeans. Now, you can try to do this by yourself and turn your fan on and off and try to be successful. However, if we bring too much humidity into the bin, we can spoil the grain. Here's our grain temp guard sensors. We've got two in this bin. We've got one right here, about 3 foot off the ground, 4 foot off the ground, and about 4 foot in from the wall of the bin. The other one's on top of the ladder up there, and what we do is, before I put the last load of beans in the bin, we're gonna toss that into the center of the bin. We're gonna make sure we pull it out before we unload that bin. So we're reading from 2 different levels inside this bin: temperature and humidity. Bigger bins will take more grain temp guards and sensors. So this is an 8,000 bushel bin. A 15,000 bushel bin or bigger may take 3 or 4 of these sensors to accomplish the same thing. Now, the other thing to note when we load a bins, we want it as level as possible to be able to rehydrate as fast as possible. We don't want to peak the bin plumb full when we load it up and utilize this system. Now, bringing everything together is this control box in the middle. And that's going to bring together the grain temp guard and the end zone system so we can work it in automatic control. And it's connected to my fan. And then we've got it set up an automatic bin, grain temp guard, and the end zone weather station. So they work hand in hand as a team, working with the outside humidity and temperature, and the inside, we're trying to get to 13% beans in this bin. All right, so how did we do? 7,200 bushels of beans went into the bin at an average moisture of 12.32%. Now, coming out of the bin, the average moisture for all the loads averaged out was 12.13%. So we did drop a few tenths of a point of moisture during the storage time of those bins. Now, here's why I think we did not gain moisture throughout the winter and the early spring while we were storing the bins. Number one, the beans went in the bin at 12.3%. So we only had 0.7 of a point of moisture to gain, which is not very much. And then the conditions were not conducive for the end zone system to run the fan, to rehydrate those beans throughout the storage season. So with that being said, in closing, you need to research the system, size it for your bin, make sure it's going to work for you, make sure you've got the right fan, you've got to have a motor starter on it for the system to work. If you've got questions, feel free to reach out to Farm Shop MFG to talk about the end zone system.